Okay, lesson 13, homework from module 4. I'm going to continue to use the redraw right strategy with number 2. Noah mows half of his property and leaves the rest wild. He decides to use 1/5 of the wild area for a vegetable garden. A fraction of the property is used for the garden. Draw a picture to support your answer. So what I'm going to look at is, I'm going to start to think of what Noah's property looks like. I'm going to label as much as I can. Labeling helps me organize. This is his property. I see that he's mows half of his property. And leaves the rest wild. Very important to label so I can start to see the picture of what's going on. He decides to use 1/5 of the wild area. So here's my wild area. I'm focused on that. 1/5 of the wild area for a vegetable garden. What fraction of the property is used for the garden? So here it is. That would be 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1/10 of the property is used for the vegetable garden. If I wanted an expression for that, it would be 1/5 of 1/2 of its property. 1/5 of 1/2 is 1/10. Final answer. The labeling really helps. Number 3. Vaughn plants 2/3 of the garden with vegetables. Her son plants the remainder of the garden. He decides to use half of his space to plant flowers, and the rest he plants herbs. What fraction of the entire garden is planted in flowers? Draw a picture to support your answer. Okay, so you can do this with tape or an area model. Now I'm looking at Vaughn plants 2/3 of the garden with vegetables. So I'm going to make the area model 2/3, broken into thirds first, and that's 2/3 planted with vegetables. Label it. Her son plants the remainder of the garden, so the rest is planted by her son. This area here. He decides to use half of his space to plant flowers. Well, half of his space, here's his space, half of his space is right here, and he's planting flowers in half of that space. The rest he plants with herbs. Label. The more you label, the clearer it becomes. What fraction of the entire garden? So I got to break the pieces into equal pieces, the entire whole into equal pieces. There are now 6 equal pieces. What fraction of the entire garden is flowers? Well, it's 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1/6 of the garden is flowers. The expression would have been, now you got to be careful about this because we're focused on the son's section. So it's really 1/2 of 1/3. Some of you might have wanted to use 1/2 of 2/3, but we're not focused on Vaughn's vegetable garden. 1/2 of his section of 1/3 would give you the 1/6. There's your expression. And finally, number 4. Diego eats 1/5 of of a loaf of bread each day. On Tuesday, Diego eats 1/4 of the day's portion before lunch. What fraction of the whole loaf does Diego eat before lunch on Tuesday? Draw a model to support your thinking. Here's your loaf of bread. The whole loaf. He eats 1/5 per day. Okay, on Tuesday, I guess I could have focused on this one as being Tuesday if this was Monday, but let's focus on the beginning part. He eats 1/4 of that day's portion. 1/4 of that day's portion. 1/4 of that day's portion before lunch. How much of the entire loaf? So I'm going to break the entire loaf into equal pieces. He eats 1 out of 20 of the entire loaf. Okay, and the expression would be 1/4 of 1/5, or 1/4 times 1/5. Numerator times numerator is 1. Denominator times denominator is 20. 1/20th of the whole loaf is eaten before lunch